The Coachella Valley Firebirds' mission to take care of unfinished business begins tonight.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to a Friday episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, and we have a family reunion squadcast. That's right, Jason JD Hernandez on the show today. But before we do that, I want to let you know today's episode brought to you by Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Well, now you can with Ultimate Hockey GM. It's completely free, and Locked On listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On NHL in the game store. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app. That's hockeygm.app. And you can also look it up in your app store. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. And we might not be in dynasty territory for the Firebirds, but I think we can say it's been a much more dominant performance this playoffs than last year. And I have Jason JD Hernandez, your PA voice of the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and of course, host of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, to break it all down. Let's get into the interview. Family reunion episode or squad cast. Jason JD Hernandez, not only the host of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, but the PA voice at Acrisure Arena for your Coachella Valley Firebirds, joins us once again. JD, of course, we have been following the Firebirds. We had you on not too long ago to talk about the Firebirds getting ready as they took on the Milwaukee Admirals. They took care of business. The first question out the gate that I have to ask is, what is up with the spoons?
Oh my God. Okay. So let's go back to game one of the series against the Milwaukee Admirals. So this was a sort of controversial topic amongst some AHL folks, that the Coachella Valley Firebirds may have had too easy of a path getting to the finals last year, which I think was anything but. It was a tough path, obviously. I mean, anybody that worked with the team last year knew how tough it was. You had the first 2 months on the road, and then you had that 26-27 game just into the finals.
Right.
And then after game one, Spencer Stastny decides to instigate more than a little bit. And he said, oh yeah, these guys, like this team, like everyone, they were like kind of born with the silver spoon. I'm like, really? Is that what you want to say? Considering that most of these guys that are on the team were cast off by their NHL teams, and you want to call them silver spoons just because they've made the finals, or almost the finals at the time, 2 years out of 2. So he went there. Firebirds players obviously saw that video. They took notice of that. And then after the game 2 victory against the Admirals, Andrew Podorowski, everyone's favorite, Andrew Podorowski, brought a silver spoon to the press conference after game 2. Not just a little silver spoon, a big silver spoon. And that's when we all took notice. We're like, oh. So, I mean, I had seen the video originally. I'm like, oh, he saw it. He definitely saw it.
He saw it.
And then it just continued from there. Fans started bringing that on. By the way, shout out to the couple of fans that brought silver spoons to the games at Milwaukee, and further shout out to the fan that brought a big silver spoon to the watch party at game 5, which was Fuego's prop, by the way.
I
on that little
love it.
L picture. I don't know if you guys have seen Fuego's social media. He had a giant spoon, and the picture that said Milwaukee Admirals without the L on it. Oh, by the way, which prompted the Milwaukee to the games at Milwaukee, and further shout out to the fan that brought a big silver spoon to the watch party at Game 5, which was Fuego's prop, by the way, on that little
love it.
L picture. I don't know if you guys have seen Fuego's social media. He had a giant spoon and the picture that said Milwaukee Admirals without the L on it. So, oh, by the way, which prompted the Milwaukee Admirals socials to block Fuego.
I did see that. I didn't see the image. We're gonna in post, I'm gonna place it on the screen right there. But I did see that Fuego got blocked.
So we had a post party dinner after the game, and I happened to be sitting like right by the like backstage where Fuego is, and right away I saw, hey, look, blocked.
Oh, wow. So yeah, the rivalry renewed. We saw that in the Western Conference final.
Mm-hmm.
But now this is the one I think Firebirds fans maybe wanted. Another bite at the apple, or should I say the candy bar, against the Hershey Bears.
I have not had a bite of Hershey anything since then.
All right, because last year we did the no chocolate.
Oh, this household is no chocolate, by the way.
No chocolate. So we're going full in no chocolate. And if you did no chocolate last year, well done. If you didn't do no chocolate last year, now's your chance. You have until tomorrow morning. Make sure you get rid of all the chocolate. We are not supporting Hershey and their hockey team.
Not after last season's heartbreak. This is the rematch that a lot of fans wanted. I just typed one word to a lot of my group chats: revenge. This is the time for revenge. Last season ended so heartbreakingly that already Firebirds fans, actually not even the fans, the coaching staff, they were ready to come back next year. Even at the start of the season, all the way back in October 13th, 2023, Dan Bylsma had one mission in mind, and that was to go all the way to the Calder Cup final and to win it. This has been his goal all along. And he said, if we have to face Hershey again, we want him. And here we are. Here we freaking are. And one of the big quotes that he said was, we have unfinished business. Like that was the number one quote in the offseason. This was the number one quote in the preseason. The number one quote after game 1. We've got unfinished business. Revenge or avenging that is what they want to do big time. So do fans want this? The majority of them would say, yeah, we want this. The only reason the fans would have wanted the Cleveland Monsters is A, someone different, and B, they'd have home ice advantage.
Right.
This time they don't.
Right. The Firebirds did have home ice advantage, to your point, so they will open on the road. They already planned for it. They took care of the Admirals, and they did not just go to any East Coast city. They went to Hershey.
And you know why they went to Hershey? They went to Hershey because at the time, it was 3-1 Hershey. And then Hershey decided, or Cleveland decided to win game 5 at whatever it's called now. I still call it the Q, Quicken Loans Arena. I call it the Q. So Cleveland won game 5 in convincing fashion. All right, fine. Hershey's still up 3-2. They're surely going to win at home because they were undefeated at home, right? So this was literally after game 5 on Saturday. They flew out to Hershey on Sunday and stuck around there. They practiced at Hershey Park Arena, which is the arena, by the way, were the old Philadelphia Warriors, not the Sixers. The Sixers played at the Auditorium. I know NBA history here, by the way. So the Sixers played at the Auditorium. The Philadelphia Warriors played at Hershey Park Arena, which is the arena where Wilt Chamberlain scored his 100-point masterpiece, by the way. Little history for you there. We're not even on WNBA chat. That's coming soon, but not today. Oh, I got a lot there, but we're saving that for another day. So they got to practice at Hershey Park. Then they waited till Game 6. And then Cleveland won Game 6 in overtime. So then the plans were, okay, if Hershey somehow pulls this off, then we stay there. If Hershey loses Game 7, then the plan probably assuredly would have been the Monsters and the Firebirds would have shared a charter back to
wow, that would have been interesting.
You know what's funny is this has happened before where teams, I mean, this is the American Hockey League,
right.
And this is kind of a common practice where teams share charters. And some of those guys know each other pretty well. So this is not uncommon in the American Hockey League. And at least in this case, the Monsters and Firebirds, they don't hate each other yet. So none of that animosity. So that would have been fine. But that didn't happen. So was it wise to stay in Hershey? Yes. Will it work out? Maybe, because I got a lot to talk about this particular series coming up. I mean, there's a lot to go through. I know it says Leach is gone. I know there's keys to the series. I mean, I don't know where you want to go next.
Okay. If we can get to Leach, we'll do it because I do want to get your thoughts on the series. Okay. I think you know as well as I do why Leach is on there, and it has very little to do with Leach and everything to do with now 2 vacancies as assistant coaches for the Seattle Kraken. But to your point, and to the point of Dan Bylsma, when he spoke to Seattle Kraken media, unfinished business. And so we are going to follow his suit after that press conference, all Firebirds. So if we have time, because I know you have a hard out today, if we have time, we'll get back to it. And if we don't, we'll just have to do another family reunion. That's all good. So, all right, just to remind folks, I'm going to run through this quickly. As we've mentioned, the Firebirds had home ice advantage. They opened up at home and opened up with a shutout. 5-0 over Hershey, 2 shutouts, and then a 4-0 shutout. And then Hershey gets an OT winner, one of 3 overtime games in this series, mind you. Hershey takes game 5-4 in overtime. Hershey takes game 4, 3-2. Then Hershey takes the next game, also overtime, 1 goal. Just 1 goal in the entire game, including extra time. And then the Firebirds get that convincing win when they come back home for game 6, 5-2.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to game 6 really quick. This was last season, right?
Last season, right.
Joey Decord, I think at this point was brilliant at home. You know, the 2 shutouts in a row. Those games, 3-5, I believe. Those were all very, very close games, very puck-lucky games in favor of Hershey.
Yes.
So the Firebirds felt pretty confident going into game 6 that they were going to take that one, knowing that all it took was puck luck. It could have easily been 3-2 Firebirds after game 5, and they know it. So they came out game 6 blazing. And then game 7.
Yeah. The third overtime game.
Maybe let's not talk about that one.
I said there was another overtime game.
Yeah.
3-2. The theme though that we talked about last year, and we talked about this a little bit, you know, last year versus this year, we were focusing mostly on goaltending. Last year versus this year. Last year, it seemed like the Firebirds were ready and willing and certainly able to run up the score early, but it was the often part. The consistency. There were lags at times, especially on the defensive end, I would argue, but I always argue about defense. And it just seemed like the resolve and the poise at times was missing. And that is what Hershey seemed to have. That it didn't matter whether it was puck luck, what the score was, that they were able to maintain an even keel, a level-headedness that we just didn't see from the Firebirds.
And I think that's going to be a big difference this year is the coaching staff has done a tremendous job. And I got to give a shout out to not just Disco, but the assistant coaches.
Hey, Kraken fans, I want to take a moment to bring up one of our partners, the mobile game Ultimate Hockey GM. Have you ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Did you ever think you could maybe run the Seattle Kraken better than Ronnie Francis? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is most definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaches and staff, trade for players, draft picks, navigate through free agency and the draft, and all in a challenging and realistic game world. As a Kraken fan, you know there is no off season. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances, and that's why I think you are going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want. By the way, Locked On Network listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On NHL in the game store. So make sure you go check it out. Download the game at hockeygm.app. That's hockeygm.app, and you can find it in your app store. All right, let's see what you can do as the GM of our Seattle Kraken.
Stu, I'm going to do it just for the Firebirds fans. Stu Bickle and Jessica Campbell have done a tremendous job, especially more this, like there's a little bit more focus. There's also a lot more rest time. So I want to talk about both things. So first, the defense has been significantly improved this season over last season. A little bit better personnel, a little bit quicker personnel, and a little bit more NHL ready personnel. Riker Evans is someone that spent about half a season in Seattle, something that did not happen last year. Riker only had a cup of coffee last year. This season, he played in about half the season up in Seattle, and at times he downright flourished with the Kraken. And he has come back looking faster. He's come back looking more confident. He has come back, you ready for this? Playing a little more controlled and disciplined, which is something that we did not see last season. And this isn't just because of different personnel. It's because of more matured personnel. I think that's a big difference comparing seasons. Also, special teams has improved markedly over the 2 years. And one guy that has made a difference that has also matured a little bit, John Hayden.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do 15 seconds like I did at the watch party, but John Hayden has, for my money, been the best. He was the best player in the last series. And you could make the argument that he's been the best player in this playoff. But there's a lot of depth in this Firebirds team. No one is really breaking out in terms of points. There's a bunch of guys that have 9, 10, 11 points.
Right. I was just going to ask you about that, because another thing that we saw last year is that in especially offensive categories, but most categories, we saw someone from Coachella Valley. That's not the case this year, JD. Nope. And if you look at the stats, right, if you look at even just the overall playoff stats, right, you'll see some Firebirds players. You'll see Shore up there. You'll see Hayden, as you just mentioned. But there are other players, individuals that are outperforming our top scorers on Coachella Valley.
And I'll give you 2 reasons.
All right. Tell us.
I'll give you 2 reasons. Number one, much more balanced offense compared to last season. Way more balanced. I mean, look at this. Devin Shore, 11 points. John Hayden, 10. Fleury, 10. Podorowski, 10. Cameron Hughes, 9 points. By the way, without a goal in the playoffs. That's some Trevor Zegras 2021 WJC type of numbers. I threw in a Ducks reference there. Sorry. Max McCormick, El Capitan, has 8, and Cole Lind has 8. And then a bunch of guys with 7, 6, 5. What I love about this offense is out of all the guys that have played every game, which is only 12, by the way, they've all got a point. Everybody that has played all the games, has scored for the Firebirds, which we did not see last season. And reason number 2, did you notice that there's less games being played? This
I
time
sure
during
did.
this time before the finals, the Firebirds had played in a total of 19 games. I should know because I was there for most of them. This year, only 12.
Was there any series last year that did not go at least 5 games, 6 games? I don't think so.
The series against Milwaukee. Milwaukee was the only series last season that did not go the distance.
Right.
Against Tucson, 3 games. Against Colorado, 5 games. Against Calgary, 5 games. Against Milwaukee, 6 games. Faked you out there. Thank God it was only 6 games. And then Hershey, 7 games.
Right.
They were gassed by the end of that run last season, which I think is also a big difference in this series. That's going to be a key to this series, which we're going to get to momentarily. But, or I guess right now.
We might
however
as
you
well
want to do it.
You know what? Let's talk about that because I have already, Kraken fans know that I've already talked a little bit about rest and recovery, more so because, and you and I talked about this, but we had a little clip from Jessica Campbell talking about how you manage that. It is a luxury to have rest. And if you don't manage it correctly, it can be a downfall. So you know what? Let's talk a little bit about what's a little bit different in how, like you said, less games and how that's going to impact potentially this Firebirds team. I hope you're enjoying my conversation with JD Hernandez. We really want to get you prepared for this series. We're going to have a watch party, not for tonight, Friday's game, a virtual watch party, but we're going to have one for Saturday, so stay tuned. But I have to let you know that today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Oh, you know I like getting into this one because we're talking passion, drive, and patience, because that is the formula that the Firebirds need to win a championship unfinished business, baby. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. And sometimes that means getting a star like Shane Wright back. We'll talk about that next. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP. Wonder who will win for the Calder Cup final and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers.
Oh, big time. So again, comparing the 2 seasons, with only 12 games played, and since they hadn't played since Saturday, that gives the Firebirds much more time to rest, something that they did not have last season. Last year, Hershey was waiting for the Firebirds to finish off the Admirals. Like, they were waiting for a bit. You know how many days off the Firebirds had between their Game 6 win and the Calder Cup finals? They had 2 days off, and that was it. The Bears only have 1 day off. They just came off an emotional victory where they barely won their series. Could have gone to Cleveland either way.
Was it 3-2 overtime, right?
Yeah, 3-2 overtime. 1 day rest, and that is it. They don't have a whole lot of time to prepare. Meanwhile, the Firebirds have been scouting both teams. They've certainly scouted the Hershey Bears, so they know what's up there. Another key to this series, I mean, the rest is going to be the biggest key to this series because the Firebirds have plenty of it. By the way, Shane Wright has been seen skating.
That I was.
Aren't you glad that I'm here?
I really am. The eyes, you're our eyes in the AHL.
So
add that to your resume.
So Shane Wright is practicing with the team. He is no longer skating with the red no contact jersey. I'm wearing red, I know. But Shane, no contact for me. But Shane Wright is skating with the team. He theoretically could have been healthy to come back in Milwaukee, but they decided, no, you know what? Given what happened in game 3, and especially what happened after game 4, better to rest Shane Wright, because there was that big, not brawl, but there was a big fracas at the end of game 4. And I do want to talk about that for a brief second.
Yes.
Immediately as they were leaving the ice, the Firebirds players, a couple of them, had already turned the page in their heads. They hadn't even left the ice from game 4. And I could hear a couple players. They're like, we'll get them next game. They hadn't even left the ice yet. The game had barely ended about a minute prior. And they were already turning the page. That is a big difference from this season's team and last season's teams, is the ability to turn to, as Evan Pivnik would say, turn the record over. We'll see on the flip side. They turned that ish over immediately and went into game 5 and crushed the Admirals. But after game 4, you want to protect Shane Wright, because who knows if more fighting is going to happen. Who knows if Zach LaRue is going to do something stupid and pull a Hayden Hodgson. So with that being said, it was a wise move by Disco to rest Shane, only bring him unless needed. They didn't need him in game 5. Now it's a different beast. Shane Wright is available to come back. He's probably going to play in this series. Let's be honest here. They're going to need all the firepower they can get.
Right.
So, and as far as the Hershey Bears, they've got a bit of injuries to deal with. And I'm actually going through all the injuries right now. So Lucas Johansson is out for the Hershey Bears. Aaron Ness is out. Biggest player that's out. Ethan Frank, one of the leading scorers for the Hershey Bears, was noticeably absent during game 7. Didn't even practice.
Yeah, so, he's got 9 goals, 3 assists in the playoffs alone, 12 points.
You know what? He might not be able to start this series, and that's a big loss for the Hershey Bears. The Firebirds have everyone. The Hershey Bears don't. They're tired. They're injured. They looked slow a lot of the times in game 6 and game 7. So this is going to be a big, big factor going into the Calder Cup finals.
Let's talk about goaltending. Again, because I think it was noticeable for me last year. Hunter Shepard. I mean, Hunter Shepard is a very solid opponent. And the Hershey Bears, they got a real one, I would say, in Shepard. And that's not obviously to take anything away from Joey Decord last year, but I think you could tell that there was a little bit of a difference in approach on the ice, I would argue, between Shepard and Decord. I mean, JD, what are your thoughts on that?
No, there's absolutely a lot of truth to that. There was a lot of differences. Shepard is a smaller goalie. He's got to be a little bit more athletic because he is a smaller goalie. I mean, I know he's listed at 6 feet at best. Some have, he's more like 5'10", 5'11". I don't know if I believe that, but he is still a more compact goalie, but he's also someone that is a lot more beatable, to be honest. And we kind of saw that against the Cleveland Monsters in this series. Jet Greaves, got to give a shout. Jet Greaves did an amazing job against the Hershey Bears, but Hunter Shepard, he was the one that led the Hershey Bears last season. Even after there was a couple of hiccups during the finals last season, he did still do just enough to get the Hershey Bears over the finish line. And again, he barely did just enough to get him over the finish line in this last series. So
I mean, and that's the thing. He's a fighter. He's a fighter, but in a calm way. And that's kind of how Hershey attacked the Firebirds last year. Now, the reason I wanted to set you up to talk about Shepard a little is because we've already talked about it. There's a change in net for the Firebirds, change in net for the Kraken, which led to a change in net for the Firebirds. And that is Chris Driedger. We spent a good deal of time earlier in the week talking about what I thought was a lovely article in the Seattle Times talking to Chris Driedger. I've said on the podcast before, he is such a thoughtful player to interview. And he really, you can tell the things that he's passionate about. You can tell when he's thinking on things. Exactly, sandwiches, which I saw you were able to get the Driegs. I saw that you got one. So if we have time before you leave, we'll get into that. What does Chris Driedger need to do in order for the Firebirds to finish and settle that unfinished business?
The same thing he's done all playoff long is to stay calm between the pipes, never look sullen, never look down, and have the ability, like I mentioned, to quickly turn the page. If a goal goes by, okay, so what? Look at the replay once. How did it happen? Okay, move on. Shoulders never slumped. He never really looked down. I mean, I think the only time he actually kind of like looked was a possible goaltender interference, but you know, that happens with every goalie.
Right. They're like, you sure about that?
Yeah. But Driegs has remained calm between the pipes pretty much all playoff long. Once he got past the game 4, like he got past that in a hurry. He gave up 6 goals in game 4. Okay, so what? Still up 3-1 in the series.
Right.
Just need to finish this business. And he did. And he came back with a memorable performance, especially periods 2 and 3. Once the Firebirds jumped out to a 4-0 lead, once they got that 5th goal from a John Hayden hat trick, that's when Driegs had to lock it down, and lock it down he did.
Yeah, so. I think you hit on so many things, and of course, his experience through as a professional hockey player, going with the ups and downs, and especially coming off of a rehab stint. I think he has a perspective that not every player on the Firebirds has, and his perspective is very unique, even from those who have had some time in the NHL. And I think it seems to me, and it stands to reason, that this is a Firebirds team that trusts their goalie, yes, because he's their goaltender, but because of what he's gone through as a professional. And he has nothing but trust and confidence in his skaters. That comes across in every interview that he gives. And I've been able to interview Chris Driedger enough to know that, again, he's a very earnest, forthcoming guy. He's not going to, pull any crap. He's going to be very direct with his comments, especially his praise. And he's had nothing but great things to say, especially about the defense of the Firebirds this season.
Absolutely. The defense has been stellar at times this season. Even on the penalty kill, the Firebirds do score those shorties pretty effectively. Penalty kill has looked very good for the Firebirds this season. And Driedger, to your point, that's what brings him that calmness. That's what brings him that trust and that ability to read the eyes very well. The ability to say, you know what, we're going to turn the page if something bad happens. And we're just going to keep at it. Keep at what has pulled through for the Firebirds really the last 4 or 5 months since Driedger came back from Seattle. And this is when he was backing up Joey DeCord back in January. I mean, hey, Driegs was there during the Winter Classic, by the way. Like,
yes, he was.
There.
Yeah.
And Driegs was there when Dax made that bonkers scorpion save.
Ooh,
and we saw the...
Yeah, that was the face.
There's that one. Which, by the way, shout out to the Firebirds fan that always brings that photo to games. Love it.
Driedger is so expressive when he does emote his eyes, especially. When you ever see him with the water bottle and his eyes just pop.
I have a firsthand view of this. I mean, he warms up right in front of me every game because I'm between the boxes. Every home game, he does the same thing, and he'll kind of skate over towards the box. Kind of give a quick glance like, hey. At this point, I think it's more of just like a, hey, and I'll try to look at him when he kind of looks in my direction, like, hey, but his eyes are very expressive.
I
Like,
love it.
you can see the whites in his eyes when he's warming up.
It's
And
amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing. And I think
so great.
There's so many great storylines. Of course, you can go with Dan Bylsma. You can go with Riker Evans, even Podorowski, sure. Hayden, who you've already mentioned. Shane Wright, when, as you said, he's expected to come back. I think Driedger and Bylsma have to be tops. The only way that their storylines, in my estimation, could potentially get dethroned is if we see some changes at the guard. We've got 2 empty positions now as assistant coaches. I'm not going to put you on the spot now because we got to get you out of here, but we got to get you back because the question that we're going to start that next family reunion episode with is, would you rather both Stu Bickle and Jessica Campbell go to Seattle, or one of them stay on and take over the reins at Coachella Valley?
That's definitely a question to have after this series.
After this series, because it's all about unfinished business. Jason JD Hernandez, last thing, let folks know how they can interact with you and, of course, hear you at Acrisure Arena as we get ready for this series. You won't see the Firebirds home for the first 2 games, but will you be at any of the watch parties?
Yeah, of course I'm at the watch parties. Firebirds fans know I'm going to be there, unless I'm actually at the no. So I was at games 3 and 4 in Milwaukee, by the way. Game 5, I was back home at the watch party. I will be at the watch parties, all of them for this series. So you can expect to hear Firebirds goal scored by El Capitan if he scores a goal, by the way. So you could expect to hear me at the watch parties, which will be at, we don't know yet for game 1, by the way, but for games 2 and beyond, it'll be at Spotlight 29. So keep your eyes and ears on the email list or on the website. Still trying to figure out where game 1 watch party is going to be at, but check them out. They're going to be a lot of fun. You could follow me on Twitter X. I think I'll post about it on Twitter as well. Twitter X is at StimpyJD. As you can see, comme ça. And I host a little show called Locked On Anaheim Ducks, who have not had any news in the past couple of months because their team has been there. And their minor league teams, well, yeah.
Well, we're always thrilled to have you as a part of the Kraken clan and family. Jason JD Hernandez is going to be boots on the ground, as you heard, for the watch parties. And of course, kind of has a big assignment when the series comes back to Acrisure Arena. You know how we
fired up.
That's it. That's all we want. That's all we want. JD, congrats to you and the rest of the staff. Enjoy the ride, my friend. And I'm sure we'll, one way or another, get your thoughts and feedback as the series goes on.
Absolutely.
JD Hernandez, thank you so much. And we'll let folks know when we can do the next family reunion.
Squadcasts.
All right. That's always a good time to talk with mi primo, mi hermano, Jason JD Hernandez. And you heard it from JD. There is going to be a watch party. We have got the details. JD and I recorded on Thursday yesterday. But here is the watch party information. Again, games 1 and 2 on the road for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Let me get my name out of the way here. And on the screen for those watching on YouTube, the Firebirds at Hershey Bar Network, Spotlight Casino, Burger and Beers, and also Playoff Sports Lounge is where you can watch the Firebirds. Of course, we will have our own virtual watch party for Saturday's game. And speaking of the games, here is the schedule. So this is the schedule against the Hershey Bears. Again, for game 2, which will be on Sunday, we're going to have a watch along on YouTube. But Friday, June 14th, that's today, 4 p.m. Pacific time is game 1 at Giant Center. Then game 2 will be Sunday, June 16th at 2 p.m. We will have a watch party right here on Locked On Kraken. And for us, that means that you will watch on AHL TV or any of the affiliates. I will watch on AHL TV or listen in on the radio. And then I will give you my commentary as the game is going on. And you can see at the bottom of this graphic, you can head to cvfirebirds.com for tickets and viewing party information. So, of course, on Monday's episode, we will have a recap of the first 2 games. But if you want to know my thoughts after game 1 and, of course, game 2, make sure you join our Locked On Kraken watch party. It's an exciting time. Can we settle this unfinished business before Disco Dan Bylsma and maybe a few of his staff members come to Seattle for our next season? That's the big question. We know what we want the answer to be, but now it's time for the boys to get it done. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Of course, we always hold fast. We always stay true. We always say, let's go Kraken, but we are fired up for the next week or so as the Coachella Valley Firebirds take on the Hershey Bears in a rematch, the 2023 Calder Cup final. Of course, we'll have you covered right here on Locked On Kraken. Until the next episode or the watch party and the watch along on Sunday, peace out, everybody.